Good morning.
There you go.
Okay. Ambatuashte. Iawakawi amakiapi. Good morning, Subcommittee. I thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my nation today. My name is Lonna Street, the chairperson of the Spirit Lake Nation in northeastern North Dakota. We have provided you with a written testimony already, but I thank you for the opportunity to be here today to speak. My statement today will focus on several Spirit Lake specific funding requests, as well as other programmatic requests. Our Treaty of 1867 promises that our Spirit Lake Reservation will serve as a livable permanent home. Treaty-based funding for Indian nations and tribes is essential to our Spirit Lake Native people and communities. The Spirit Lake Nation consists of 8,000 tribal members. It's about 450 square miles and 250,000 acres. Checkerboard tribe, as was stated earlier. We experience a 27.2% poverty rate, and our life expectancy for our men is 47 years old and 56 years old for our women, and sometimes even younger with our addictions and, with our social problems and health issues that we experience on our tribal nation. Currently at Spirit Lake, we are seeking the return of our lake bed. Our lake bed was part of our original 1867 treaty. Our treaty mandates that competent health-led health care. Our treaty mandates competent physician-led health care, but we continue to have poor health, diabetes, heart disease, violent crime, homicides, suicides, poor housing, poor nutrition, and poverty. Currently at Spirit Lake, we do need a new health care clinic to accommodate these conditions. We applied for the joint venture funding, but we were denied. So we plan to use the Section 105L of the Indian Self-Determination Act to build one, and we are requesting Congress to keep that program fully funded. It currently is one of the only tools for tribes in our situation. We need $2 million for our BIE Tate Topa School Road. Our Tate Topa Tribal School is a tribally controlled BIE on our reservation school that serves 443 K through 8 students. This route is the only one into the school, and it is in terrible shape. It's a danger to our school children and to the community, continuously needing repairs to our school buses. We also need to add another kindergarten classroom next year, but no available space exists to accommodate this need in our school. There are several essential programs, including our FACE program, alternative school, and our middle school culture classroom. They're all housed in portable units outside of our main building, and for us that's a concern, especially when we experience 40 and 40 below weather in North Dakota for more than 5 or 6 months at a time. We also need a new roof, a major building upgrade to provide our students with an equal education opportunity. As tribes, we should be eligible for impact aid funding to pay for classroom instruction. Currently, at our Tate Topa Tribal School, we lack funding to provide, we lack funding for those students who are deemed non-beneficiary because they don't meet the requirements for enrollment. And so we end up funding them, from, from an empty account, basically. Tiwahe program. Our Tiwahe program is an initiative that the Spirit Lake Tribe was able to become a part of back initially when the initiative became available. In our language, Tiwahe means Dakota, or in our language, Tiwahe means family, and the Tiwahe program brings together families. The Tiwahe program is a community-based initiative to provide culturally appropriate community support for Native families by integrating tribal practices, cultural norms, values, and traditions into social service programs. Roughly about $3.5 billion annually is needed to meet minimum requirements across Indian country. For law enforcement, Congress needs to enact an Indian Country Violent Crime Fighting Act to codify President Trump's Lady Justice Task Force. We need joint BIA and DOJ funding for annual tribal master law enforcement plans. In FY26, funding was less than $600 million. Indian country needs about $950 million for fiscal year 27. We need the funding to save lives. We need more tribal police officers. Recently, we had a young lady on Spirit Lake lose her life. We currently have 2 tribal police officers at any given time on Spirit Lake, and that is only because there's officers detailed from the Turtle Mountain tribe, which is roughly about 80 miles away. She did everything she needed to do. She called 911, waited for a police officer to respond. However, when you're only working with one officer who at the time was on the east end part of the reservation, he didn't make it in time. She actually called 911 because she was being surrounded by coyotes, and so she went into the water, and it was early October, and at that time, it's cold in North Dakota already, and so she succumbed to the water because the officer couldn't respond on time because we only had one officer on. And so these are the issues that we in Indian country face because we lack law enforcement officers in our community. Our other BIA programmatic requests include $27 billion for Indian Affairs programs in fiscal year 27, which is the recommendation of the TBIC committee. Robust increases are needed for all federal-based funded programs and additional funding to address public safety and justice in tribal communities, the economic and social well-being of our citizens and all those who visit or do business in our communities, the backlog of school, community, and government infrastructure construction and maintenance, taking land into trust, and addressing cultural protections within tribal and federal lands. In 2024, BIA submitted a report to Congress estimating a minimum base level of service to all federally recognized tribal nations, including $1.72 billion needed for tribal law enforcement programs, $1.5 billion is needed for tribal courts, and $285 million is needed to adequately fund existing detention centers. So overall, more than $3.5 billion is needed for public safety and justice in Indian country. BIA received $39.19 million for the BIA road maintenance program in fiscal year 24, and BIA has a deferred maintenance backlog of approximately $400 million. Additionally, the annual funding levels for this program have been relatively flat, especially when compared to the increasing level of deferred maintenance roads needs. This program is critical to the safety of all those driving on the approximately 29,100 miles of roads and 1,100 bridges in Indian country that are often overseen by BIA. We support TBIC's fiscal year 26 recommendation of $400 million for the BIA road maintenance program to address deferred maintenance needs in Indian country. In Indian education, BIA programmatic funding nationwide for fiscal year 27 needs over $3 billion. This covers 169 elementary and secondary schools, 14 dorms, and post-secondary institutions serving roughly 40,000 students. Core operations for fiscal year 27 needs are $1.9 billion in fiscal year 27. Elementary and secondary needs, roughly $1 billion for elementary and secondary. Post-secondary and management should remain at least at 26 fiscal year funding level of $100 million. Funding challenges are the $7,500 per pupil amount for Native students compared to a $25,000 national average per pupil. Congress needs to close this gap. We also need funding for our Voc Rehab Services building. We need increased funding to serve growing numbers of Native adults with disabilities. We need more counselors and job placement specialists, especially those trained in culturally grounded rehabilitation. We need funding for transportation solutions for clients in rural and remote areas like that we all experience in our tribal nations. We need expanded training and technical assistance for the Voc Rehab. And we also need to address housing. Housing is much needed in Indian country and much underfunded. Currently at Spirit Lake, we currently have around 400 people on our waiting list. I thank you today. Thank you, committee, for hearing my testimony, and I do stand for questions.